So, do you think YouTube are aware that there are, you know, people coming up like yourselves attempting to replace them as like the go-to video platform?
I think I can tell you they're absolutely aware of us. I have emails indicating as such. And I think at this point, it's pretty clear that we're the biggest threat to YouTube. I think Google knows that that's true. And I think they've begun acting in a way that that's true. And, but I don't know what they do to fix it, because it's not this, you know, sometimes you have this upstart competitor and the sort of established competitor has the ability to just be like, oh, we'll just do what the upstart's doing. You know, they figured out a better way of doing it. We'll just copy it. In our case, the thing that we're doing that's different is fundamentally surrendering the amount of control that these companies traditionally have. And I don't think it's really possible for them to copy that. I also don't see, in terms of Google's culture, the culture being the same that it was 10 years ago, you know, and I think that that was clear with things like the Damore firing and other things where, you know, the safe space that you want to have when you're creating cutting edge technology is a safe space for people to have weird and different ideas, for people to be okay disagreeing. If you are enforcing some kind of like hegemony of thought where only these narrow things are allowed, or like only people of one political persuasion are getting hired, I don't think that you're going to create extremely like creative, cutting edge type technological solutions. And I think it's clear that YouTube in particular has probably become the most political part of Google, you know, where they're censoring, you know, presidents and governors and Senate testimony and all kinds of things in this way that's very, very political. And I think that that's driven not just by the CEO, but basically by the fact that their staff is incredibly political at this point. And I just don't see that being ever being a product that's liked by all people. It's going to be a product that's liked by, you know, maybe a third of the country.
I get, yeah, that I guess that becomes the issue. But one of the things that I was like thinking about last night while I was thinking about how people could attempt to subsume Facebook or replace Facebook, and not Facebook, sorry, YouTube. And one of the things that I was thinking about was the fact that it was, maybe this isn't the case anymore, but the thing that had been explained to me was that YouTube lost money permanently, essentially, and that Google, the reason that it was able to become what it was is as you kind of touched on earlier, that it was loss making, and they've attempted to corner the market, and Google was basically able to prop it up in order for them to grow to the size they are. And why is your model more viable than YouTube's, in that like you don't need a Google to prop you up while do you get what I'm asking?
Yeah. So, well, one, I'll say that YouTube hasn't been losing money for years. Really? That was true at one point. One aspect is simply that the costs of delivery and all of this stuff have come down a tremendous amount. But probably an even bigger aspect is the blockchain and the peer-to-peer aspect of what we're building. So the fact that the peer-to-peer aspect reduces infrastructure costs, and the blockchain aspect really creates a very empowered community. You know, we have a Discord chat with 40,000 people in it. So much of the work that, you know, there are 15 people who were actually employed by the company. There are 200 people who contributed code in the last year. There are hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people who have made, you know, a meme and attempted to spread the message. And so it's something where like it's created something that's almost more of a movement and not just, you know, a company. And I think that that's a big part of why we'll succeed.
One of the things that made YouTube great was the independent nature of the creators, and it has really become like more corporatized again, as you mentioned earlier. When I search videos for stuff, like there's some protests going on in the UK at the moment about a policing bill, and there's a couple of things kicking off in my home city in Belfast, just with things about Brexit sort of vaguely, and the borders. And yeah, when I tried to like search for footage of people like on the street to try and get like an idea of what's going on. And if I search for like the footage, it just comes up with all of these institutional, like it's our major TV stations, our major like newspapers or media outlets, and that's all you find.
Yeah, there's been this really uncomfortable fusion, in my opinion, between big tech and government that I think should concern a lot of people. That YouTube has explicitly said multiple times. Susan just said this to the World Economic Forum just the other day about how they're boosting authoritative sources and pushing down the kind of independent results, exactly like you're talking about. Anyone who goes onto the odyssey.com homepage or just clicks around in the categories will probably see creators that they used to know. And they're like, oh, what happened to him? I stopped seeing his videos. And it's because, YouTube decided that it didn't want to show them anymore. YouTube has literally numerical scores that are manually assigned to channels. That's basically like boost this channel in the results or lower this channel in the results. And those scores are assigned by human beings. So they absolutely had their thumb on the scales. I'll give a particularly egregious example. Have you come across the Ford Fisher case?
Oh, yeah. Ford Fisher, was he the guy who had footage from inside the Capitol on January 6th?
Yeah. This case is unreal. So Ford Fisher went to the Capitol riots on January 6th and filmed what was happening. Ford provides like no commentary. He's describing what's happening. He's like, he tries to be as politically neutral as a reporter can be. He's like, just the facts, like this is what's happening. This man is now, beating on this window. It's like it's
you remember when
factual.
You remember when that was journalism?
Yes. I mean, it is like he would, there's you can debate around the edges of like, what is journalism? Like there's no debate that what Ford is doing is journalism. And, YouTube has removed Ford's footage. YouTube's policy is this footage cannot be restored unless you contextualize it. Okay. So in other words, the live footage of these events cannot be allowed to stand for itself. The only way you're allowed to upload it is if you spin it. You're not allowed to not spin it. And that's like absolutely unreal. This footage was used in the Trump impeachment hearings, by the way. So it's of like historical and political significance that people be able to access it. It was used by New York Times and CNN. And so, but YouTube is saying the video itself is not allowed up. And this has been going on for months. So this isn't like, oh, they made a mistake or the algorithms made a mistake. Like YouTube has been very explicit in this case that the video is just not going to be allowed up. And I mean, they did it again with the DeSantis video just the other day, where there's this video of Ron DeSantis. I mean, this one's like a little bit more political, but it's a governor of Florida who's having a private conversation with someone, and they're saying you're not allowed. And it's like, dude, like I love it for my company's sake, but I honestly don't get it from a business perspective. It's like, you can disagree with this person. You can think that he's wrong. I'm not saying I agree with him, but it's like, clearly he's like getting elected in the state of Florida. Like a lot of people agree with him to say that he's not allowed to use your platform. It just seems like terrible from a business perspective to be alienating, half your audience or more than half your audience, because I've got to imagine, even if you think DeSantis is wrong, there's a lot of people out there who should be uncomfortable with a tech company, censoring elected officials.
Sometimes I wonder about this, because I'm thinking that Google is they're like I don't know how much they're worth, tens of billions of dollars at least. And they've clearly become incredibly successful in a lot of the avenues down which they've gone. And yet they seem to be displaying like zero business acumen here. No, but seriously, like they
I agree with you.
Intent on removing like huge creators, like they seem intent on driving out like Steven Crowder. He's like 5.3 million viewers. Tim Pool is like close to 1 million. They've already driven out Joe Rogan, although he just says it was because Spotify offered him a better deal. But I think he was looking for somewhere to jump to. Like they seem to be making these really poor decisions. Like what's going on?
But Spotify removed all the Rogan videos too.
Yeah,
more than and it wasn't like there's a thing like, oh, they're coming back. Like no, there's 30 episodes missing right now.
I think it's up to 42.
Okay, there you go. You got the current number, so you're better at my job than I am. I seriously like it does. Sometimes I feel like I'm in like a Pod People movie where I'm like, how's no one else see like what's going on here? Like, how's this not disturbing to more people? And I mean, I think the answer is it is disturbing to a lot of people. It's difficult for me to understand exactly why they're doing it, because I want to have the same bias that you do. I don't think they're dumb. Like, and I don't think that, I do think that Google is like generally a well-run company that's made billions of dollars. Like, so to me, the two most likely scenarios are that, like, one is that this is profit maximizing. There is in America, there has been this like large company and establishment fusion where like it is plausible to me that the government is putting some sort of pressure on them to take certain actions, or not even the government, again, in this grand conspiracy sense, but like local officials who have their own biases, so they do feel that maybe they do feel that this is profit maximizing. Or the other possibility is that the CEOs don't want to do this. The executives don't necessarily want to do this, but if 90% of your employees want something, like, you can't necessarily dictate otherwise. So if the sort of general populace at these companies wants them to take it, it may be that they feel that it's more pragmatic to sort of do what their employees want, because otherwise they risk, sort of a revolt among the people working there. Mm-hmm. I think that's one possible scenario.
Do you get a sense of the reasons that people are deciding to leave YouTube to move to Odyssey, either as like a transitional sort of move or just altogether just forget YouTube? Like, do you get a sense of like what the main reasons for people leaving are? Is it that they feel your platform is better? Do they like the way the tokens work? Is it the censorship that's driving people away from YouTube? Like, do you have an understanding of that?
I'll talk about some of them. It's a mix. There's a variety. I will say, before I get into some of the reasons, that we have this really great tool on Odyssey where it will copy your entire YouTube channel over, both historically, and it will copy it on an ongoing basis. And it's literally, you check one box. It is so easy to do. And so if you are a YouTube creator and you're hearing this interview and you're curious about what we're doing, there's a way to get started that's like very little effort. And so it's sort of a heads you win, tails nothing happens scenario, which is a good kind of bet to look for in your life generally. And I will say that's part of why people come on. So part of it is, well, people are curious and we've made it really easy. It's really easy to sign up and get started. It's really easy to try it. People come on because you can earn a little bit of cryptocurrency just for using the website, just for sort of checking it out. And so people like that. People like the idea of having more control, even if you're not being censored. It's like, if you're having a conversation with your friend, do you want some like hall monitor there, standing over you? There's this sort of claustrophobic kind of feeling, I think, that a lot of people feel using these services. And so there's people who want to escape. There's absolutely people who come on for reasons of censorship. There's people who come on because they like just the idea of the tech, the fact that everything is open source, the fact that people have more control. That's really no, I don't want to make it a political thing. I mean, that's something that everyone feels. The fact that like we don't want there to be these like massive power differentials, right? And so there have become these very large power differentials between us as users and what the tech companies can do. And even if you're not directly impacted by that, I think people feel that there's reasons of privacy. People don't like being spied on and having everything tracked and all of this. And people also just feel like exploited. That they build up this whole thing. They build up all of their following, and then they get taken advantage of. And so there's a really long list of reasons that people are coming over.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or sign up to our mailing list. Thanks a lot to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, the #1 most trusted VPN. Get lightning fast connectivity with servers in 160 locations across 94 countries. Keep your browsing privacy safe with ExpressVPN and get a 35% discount on 12 months of ExpressVPN when you follow the link in the description below. Don't forget my book is now out and available to order on Amazon and on bookshop.org. That's Brexit, the Establishment Civil War. And most importantly, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.